Good morning, everyone, and thank you for coming to listen to us to talk about blockchain in capital markets. I'm going to, first of all, start at what problems are banks trying to solve, and then really try to paint a picture of where does the blockchain actually fit into that. That's the question, I think, as a PwC person that we get the most. Is the blockchain a solution, a technology solution looking for a problem, or does it have real application in capital markets? So I'm going to start there. Then I'm going to talk about the collaboration that PwC has with Microsoft. We've done some really cool stuff to demonstrate that this technology really does have applicability and viability. And Dara is going to explain what we actually did and take you through how you might be able to also use some of the things that we learned. So PwC recently did a survey. We conducted 300 interviews across capital markets with CEOs and senior folk who work in the banks. And we asked them, what are the things that are on your mind? What are the really important things for you? And these are the results that you can see on the screen here. And none of these, I guess, are surprising to anybody in the audience. But topmost for all of the banks was managing risk, regulation, and capital. We know that since the crisis, it's been really, really extremely difficult for the banks. They're spending billions of dollars on just compliance. And frankly, they have a very massive legacy infrastructure problem. The banks that we deal with spend 70% of their capital investment programs on simply maintaining the plant, which is extraordinary. So challenging for them is, how are they going to redefine the business model? What are the areas where there's accretive revenue that the banks can still go after? And what does that mean for the operating model? And all of the time when we have these conversations about strategic objectives, we get to how are we going to use technology to actually facilitate this? So again, no surprise to anybody in the room. FinTech is massive. RegTech is obviously also hugely important, looking at using technology to help with the cost of compliance and frankly to open up new markets. So where does the blockchain fit in? I guess people in the room also wonder, if it's so easy to do everything on the blockchain and it has a promise of changing the entire world, why are the banks not there yet? What's going on? What's holding them up? And so what I can tell you is that all of the large banks have done or are doing proofs of concept with the technology. They're obviously getting their hands dirty with it. They're involved in consortiums like R3 to try to understand where this technology will evolve to and what it can do for them. But it's challenging, and the reason why it's challenging, I think, is first and foremost, security concerns, right? So the banks are not that far into their cloud journey, still trying to figure out from a risk and regulation point of view what data can go to the cloud. There are countries where there are challenges with obviously taking the data out of the country or putting it into a cloud and taking the risk that the data could be compromised. So moving to cloud obviously is a precursor for blockchain. Trying to work on that for the banks is definitely challenging. Regulation, we're not exactly sure what the regulatory view will be of any blockchain solution. It's not clear whether or not it's even a financial system in the eyes of the regulators. And so PwC, being a very large audit firm, we're actually working with regulators to try to understand that. Does this system replace the books and records of any counterparty that's participating, or is it something that runs alongside? Cost benefit is a huge one. This is where we spend a lot of time with clients looking at, well, what problem are you trying to solve? And then how do you actually fund that? Because many clients of ours feel that the blockchain is really an external networking event. And so it's very difficult for any one player to fund through that adoption and to actually make that investment. So part of what we're trying to do in the ecosystem is bring folks together where we can look at where is the value, and then how might we go after that together? How might we fund that? We know that if we get this right, there's significant possibility for reduced cost in the system, the ability to share the automation, the ability to just get on the journey of digital transformation is really, really important. But fundamentally, the idea that we actually share the records and the resulting positions and transactions in the blockchain is, I think, where most of the excitement really is coming from. I think most of you in the room know that there are hundreds of people in all of the banks whose job it is to reconcile the bank to the street, to the counterpart, to the custodian, to the exchange, to the clearinghouse, and so on. And frankly, lots and lots and lots of issues in that process in terms of data. Surety of contract is another area where the banks are also extremely focused. The idea of having smart contracts and being able to represent contractual terms across counterparties using a smart contract where we deterministically agree what the terms are, and then we're sort of bound by the smart contract executing according to those terms, and we don't get out of sync. This was a huge preoccupation, obviously, during the crisis in terms of, what was the enforceability of these contracts, what actually happened across counterparties, and why do they have different answers in terms of what the credit exposures are. Again, if we were using smart contracts, we would be fully reconciled, arguably. So how do you get there? How do you start on the journey? Again, I think most people try to focus on one problem. And in this case, in our journey with Microsoft, PwC decided that in order to do anything really relevant, we needed to work with a large technology company. And we chose Microsoft. And it's important to understand that, again, building a POC and demonstrating a proof of value is great, but at some point we need to actually bring applications live, and we need to get things out to commercial viability, and they need to be enterprise grade, and they need to be able to scale. So it was important for us to work with Microsoft on that journey. Microsoft is a very large technology company, but they're also a very large corporate with a very large balance sheet of their own. So it was really interesting to us that Microsoft wanted to partner on looking at how they finance their own balance sheet and using a trade finance instrument that Microsoft uses when it's dealing with its customers called a standby letter of credit. This was what the current flow looked like. It was extremely complicated, even though this is a fairly straightforward procedure. A customer of Microsoft is trying to, obtain services and needing to, in their own local market, go to their bank, ask the bank to guarantee that that this customer will be able to pay. Entirely manual, taking days and days, involving correspondent banking networks between advising banks and issuing banks, in this case, the bank that Microsoft was using, and taking, way longer than you would expect. This is what happened when we applied the blockchain, and we'll show you how that worked. We went from 15 steps in multiple days to 5 steps across a shared network of data using smart contracts, and taking a bunch of manual work out of the equation, and giving everybody in this process a much more transparent view into what was going on. So Dara?
Yeah. Thanks, Grania. So one of the things I want to show you here is the actual finished solution and what every stakeholder in the process sees. So as Microsoft, at every step in the process, you get a notification to say that there's a letter waiting to be approved. So it went from being an incredibly manual, paper-based process to something that was digital all the way through. And the key thing was that everyone had a single version of truth all throughout the whole process on the blockchain. And some of the business benefits that we've seen from this were really around giving you back a whole lot of time in terms of speed and efficiency. There are some really optimistic figures about what blockchain will actually drive in terms of productivity for compliance. And we show this to some of our customers at Sibos recently, and depending if you're a technical person or a business person, you get incredibly excited by those things, So what we did was we shifted. What we saw though in the process is that we spent less time chasing the paper, but we were able to spend more time on the relationships with our partners, with the customer and the partner banks that we were working with. The key thing as well was transparency. And again, this is something that the regulators are very interested in. We were able to have a completely auditable process where we didn't have to spend a lot of time chasing that up in terms of audit requirements. The other thing that we did was we picked an adjacent process. This was something that there was already a process around. One of the things you might think about in terms of POCs is to build an adjacent process to something you have already so that you can compare the benefits. I just want to quickly touch on Microsoft's own strategy around blockchain. So a key thing that we're doing in our cloud service, Azure, is we're building an ecosystem of partners. If you're familiar with Microsoft, we used to be a very proprietary company. When I joined in 2008, we had a strategy where we would either acquire technology or sue somebody that was in the competition with us. And our new CEO, Satya Nadella, has done, I think, an amazing job. He's actually opened up the company. We have things like Office on iPad, for example. But this has actually been executed on our Azure platform. So it's an open source platform. 80% of the capacity there is now running open source products and technologies. A key benefit for you, though, as an attendee at FinDEVr, is that you'll be able to build solutions in Azure and monetize them through our marketplace. One of the things that you can do as well with blockchain as a service is we allow you to build blockchain solutions very quickly, and I'll run you through an example of that here. And what we'll allow you to do is mix and match different blockchain technologies. So we're not going to lock it into a particular type of blockchain. You can actually build one very quickly, and we'll show you an example of that. And what you can do then, as you build solutions, you'll be able to put them into our marketplace as blockchain as a service offerings or finished smart contracts, for example. So one of the things I'll show you here is the recent announcement that we made around our platform. So one of the things we've done is we've released a thing called Bletchley. And Bletchley, essentially what that does is it allows you to link blockchain solutions into existing business applications. If you think about blockchain POCs, they tend to be very siloed off to the side and not connected to anything that is running in the customer's environment. One of the things that we're doing with Bletchley is allowing you to integrate those into blockchain without harming the integrity of the blockchain itself. And one of the things that we announced with this was we've built a set of templates in Azure. And essentially what those templates will allow you to do is create a working blockchain with 8 questions. And the blockchain itself will take about 12 minutes to be deployed into Azure. So this, the questions that are asked are, what's the administrator password? What would you like, which region of the world would you like this to be deployed into? And it also asks for a key from EtherWallet as well. So I'll just show you a finished example of this. This is one I baked earlier. This is a working blockchain in Azure. And again, all of the configuration to do this before this might take you a number of different weeks. It's made up of virtual machines, load balancers. In the solution as well, there's also a pre-packaged demo. So there's a wallet that you can demonstrate to customers. And again, really what we're showing you here is the power of the technology. This was developed through the open source community. So again, if you want to build more packaged solutions like this, you can publish them through our Azure platform, and also publish them on GitHub. So again, if you want to get started with Azure, you can sign up for a free trial. I think you get $300, and again, this will you can actually deploy this in as a free subscription as well if you want to try it. And I'll be at the booth here today if you have any additional questions on this. So I'm just going to hand back to Grania.
Yeah, so just quickly, we wanted to highlight the lab that PwC is using as a way to take the concept that Dara is talking about in terms of building a marketplace of solutions. We in PwC are able to arguably bring the problems, right, that our clients are trying to solve. And the way this works is, we obviously deal with everybody on the map, you can see there, in terms of, all of the capital markets players. We're inside their shops, we're auditing them, we're advising them, we understand what problems they're trying to solve. The goal is to be very agile in terms of using blockchain and other distributed and associated technologies in this marketplace to demonstrate quickly that we could solve that problem. And what we're able to bring, and I think it's critical, is obviously the entire digital transformation experience, right? So part of what we're trying to do is show the customer this is a transformation journey that we're going on. It's not a case of taking your current state and mapping it into a blockchain, right? It's a case of really changing very dynamically how you're interacting with other partners in the ecosystem. If you all in the room have solutions that are relevant there in terms of, whether it's identity, authenticity of customer, whether it's a KYC solution, whether it's a bespoke payment solution, whatever it is, we have an opportunity in this lab to bring those solutions to customers and to quickly bring up applications that are interoperable and can run alongside what the bank already has. I think that point that Dara made is absolutely critical. The bank isn't going to move away from the mission critical infrastructure that it has today, so whatever solution we deploy needs to interact with that. So we just laid out here some of the things that we thought are critical in terms of getting on a journey. Try to solve a specific business problem, obviously. The collaboration element, getting into a lab and collaborating with other partners is critical. Making sure benefits are scalable. We like to build things that can be used again for other clients to solve the same problem. Choosing the right tool for the job. The blockchain doesn't solve every problem. We bring other aspects of digital transformation to the solution also. And then making sure that we can connect to everything else in the environment around us and that the solution can be deployed without displacing everything that already exists, even if we're going to do that over time. So as Dara said, thank you for your attention. We're going to be in the booth. We'll demonstrate the application and anything else that you want to know about working with either one of the companies. Thank you.